Hey everyone. Can you imagine that leadership is not always what you think it is? We often imagine leaders as these flawless, polished icons who have all the answers. But here's the real deal. Leadership is messy, it's raw, and it's profoundly human. And that's exactly what we're diving into on Leadership Plus with Dr. G. Dr. G brings a fresh and unique perspective. She's not just about theories and buzzwords. She gets to the core of leading with courage and heart. So whether you're navigating challenges, building your team, or refining your vision, this is your space to grow and thrive as a leader. Now let's jump in with your host, Dr. Shernette Grant.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Shernette Grant, and I want to welcome you to Leadership Plus with Dr. G, the podcast where we keep it real about what it takes to lead, grow, and inspire others to be their absolute best. And I am your host. I'm so glad you're joining me today. I just wanted to really share initially about my own passion. My own passion as a leader, as a coach, someone who will always be your biggest cheerleader when it comes to seeing people unlock their potential and being the very best that they can be. My journey starts way back when. Let me go way back when. So I like to say I'm Jamaican by way of Florida, now Maryland. But with that said, grew up in Jamaica, the first of a very large family of 7. Unfortunately, one of my brothers did pass many years back. My mom and dad are still together. My mom and dad are farmers. You know, my dad built the house with his own hands that we currently live in. It's interesting. I digress. Last night I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about this idea of entrepreneurship and people who have, taken that leap of faith and done something for themselves. And, I made the comment that growing up, education was always a big part of our lives. Neither of my parents had an education. My mom and dad learned how to read in church. That's how my mom and dad learned how to read. They learned to read in church. But it was important for all of us, all 7 of us, to get an education that they guaranteed. I am a first generation college student, but many of my siblings followed that path. And then, we have the entrepreneurs in the family as well. And, we've worked it out. So I mentioned to the person I was talking to, and I said to her, we really just kind of played by the book, and we did the, school thing. I have a Ph.D, so I went all the way. Clearly I went all the way. But I never really took the entrepreneurial route until very late in life. And she said to me, and I kind of made the comment that it's because, I think it was never instilled in us. We were always kind of taught to, go to school, get an education, get the job, work the 9 to 5. And the person said to me, but think about it. All of our parents growing up, we saw entrepreneurship our whole life and didn't even recognize it. My dad was a farmer. He was a carpenter. My mom raised chickens. Neither my mom or dad ever worked for anybody in their life, but yet still they cared for 7 children, built a house, built a home, sent us to school, and did all of that from farming. I joked because I said, someone asked me the other day if I had experience in logistics. And if I had thought from this perspective that I'm sharing right now, I would have told that person, yes, I do. Because when my mom and dad had to figure out how to get all the cabbage and the yam and all of the things that we farmed to the market on the other side of the country to make sure that it was distributed to the farmers who were buying from us, because we were the ones who, produced, that crop in bulk, and then sold it to the smaller farmers or the people who sold. That is logistics. You tell me that's not logistics. So I don't know how I got off on this tangent just now, but, as I was sharing that my mom and dad were farmers, my parents, my mom was a housewife. We grew up in church. So I'm going to say my parents were entrepreneurs. I just didn't recognize it until last night. until last night. But anyway, coming back to my story, I grew up in Jamaica, went to junior college in Jamaica, started out with a degree in medical technology. Actually, I did labs. I went to the local university. It's called CAST. Back then, I'm dating myself for the Jamaicans out there who know what that means. Now it's called UTech. It's called UTech. I got a degree in medical technology, worked labs for a little bit, and then migrated to the United States to to go to school, actually. I came here to go to school. Came here to go to college, to get a bachelor's degree. I had a diploma in Jamaica, so I came here to get a bachelor's degree. Started out in biology. Fast forward, I'm going to give you the short version of the story. I ended up finishing college and could not get certified or licensed as a medical technologist in America because the rules were different. And many of you who are immigrants, you know that story very well. You come from your country, qualified, and then you all of a sudden learn you don't meet the qualifications. But that's okay. We go through the process and we get it done. So with that said, that's how I ended up in teaching, because I sort of abandoned this idea of becoming a medical technologist and I went into teaching instead. 22 years later, I like to say that was my destiny. I was intended to be in teaching. I was intended to be an educator, because my career since then has been nothing but short of fulfilling. Taught for a couple of years, became magnet coordinator. For those of you who know about magnet schools, became an assistant principal, became a principal. I worked as assistant principal in high schools for many years, and became a principal of middle school. But let me backtrack just a little bit as we are talking about, my leadership journey, especially. It wasn't until I was, I remember it was I believe I was in my fourth year of teaching at a high school in Broward County, maybe fourth or fifth year. I had just become a magnet coordinator, actually. Let me correct myself. I had taught for 3 years, became a magnet coordinator, I believe, on my fourth year. During my 10 years magnet coordinator, within those 3 years, I remember working for one of my assistant principals. His name was Bill Springer. I never forget Mrs. Springer, because Mrs. Springer is probably one of those people who exemplified for me the kind of leader that I think I am today, or I aspired to be then, and many of the traits that I still carry with me. And I was showing Mr. Springer some information from a project that I was working on, and out of the blue, Mr. Springer looked at me and he said to me, you're going to make a fine assistant principal one day. Me, the little girl from the country in Jamaica, is going to become an assistant principal? Wasn't even a thought. Leadership wasn't even a thought. I share that story, and that story has always been something I share, and it's very pivotal. It was a very pivotal moment in my own career, because it was in that moment that I saw in myself what I never saw before, because someone pointed it out to me. So as you are going through life, as you are going through your work, your career, I want you to always remember that there are people out there that you can breathe life into, because sometimes individuals just need someone else to point out in them how awesome and amazing they are. Let me say that again. Sometimes you can be the conduit that will help somebody recognize just how amazing they are and just how great they are if they just think through their next steps. So, Mrs. Springer, thank you. You were the first person who made me think that I could be a leader in Broward County Public Schools. And in that moment, I started processing my next step. So fast forward 2 years later, I was an assistant principal, actually. Went back, got my degree in educational leadership. I was an assistant principal. And with that, I continued on to become a principal, became director of magnet program to Broward County Public Schools. And about 2.5 years ago, I decided to leave the school system. Decided that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to create, have greater impact. I like to say I want to expand my sphere of influence, And I left and I went to nonprofits and was a chief program officer for Junior Achievement in South Florida. Had a really great experience there. And from there, I became the CEO of Girl Scout of Central Maryland. And now here I am, focusing on doing what I love and what I do best, which is helping people be the very best that they can be under Unorthodox Leadership Consulting and Management Services, which I have been doing for many years, but now I'm deciding to make it a priority. For me, like I said, I believe leadership it's not just about fancy titles, right? We all have the titles, we all have the rules we follow. But I believe it's about connection. It's about helping others grow. It's about how you empower people around you to show up and be their best selves. That's the secret to helping others, to what I do and helping others shine. And it's important because you should shine too. So why this podcast? So what is this podcast about? Again, leadership is all about helping other people be better and creating that ripple effect, wherever you go. So we'll talk about some real stuff, navigating challenges. How do you build trust with your staff, with your team, with your community? How do you find your groove as a leader and truly make a difference? How do you show up, right, as a kind of leader that not only gets results, but also helps other people, thrive, truly thrive. Thrive not just for the organization, but thrive for themselves. And this is personal for me. It's personal because I've lived it. I've had some amazing mentors who believed in me, and like I shared, like the Mr. Springer story. And I've had many Mr. Springers in my life who've cheered me on. I've faced many moments where I had to dig deep, just to find my own strength. That's why I'm so passionate about paying it forward and helping others grow and be the leaders that they want to be. So that's what this podcast is about. That's what this podcast will be about. Just, speaking openly about some of the challenges that individuals face in leadership. I myself, especially as a Black female in the space, there are so many things that, I can talk about that I have faced and overcome that have shaped my perspective on leadership and also fueled my mission to help others thrive. And I want to use this platform not only to share my story and inspire you to embrace your own unique leadership journey, but also to provide you tidbits and talk openly about how you can make sure that you indeed have a successful journey. So with that said, this is just a brief intro. On a more personal note, because I have to talk about my daughters. I have two beautiful, amazing young ladies, Taylor and Talia. Taylor is a junior in college in Miami. Talia is a freshman Taylor's at FIU in Miami, and Talia is at FAMU in Tallahassee. Living their best lives. Living their best lives. If only they knew what was on the other side of life, right? But I am very proud of both of them, very confident that they're going to do amazing in life and just do amazing things. They're my pride and joy and my biggest cheerleader in all things that I do. So, of course, I had to share a little bit of my personal with you. And with that said, that's just a little bit, you learn more about me and the specifics of my, some of my journey as we get to know each other through this medium and as we, share. But if there's one thing I want to leave you with in this introduction, and this was not even planned in terms of, the Mr. Springer story, but I want to remind you that you have the power to speak positively into people's lives. You have the power to bring out in others what they do not see in themselves. And when you recognize it, share it. Sometimes it's important that you verbalize it, that you tell people just how amazing they are, and how much potential you see in them, and be willing also to support them in that growth. And for those that you may see the potential but they struggle, you have the opportunity to coach and mentor and support and be there for them. We weren't all born, ready. We weren't all born ready, but I think we all deserve an opportunity to be ready. With that said, again, join me for full episodes in January. We officially go live January 6th with the live podcast, Leadership Plus with Dr. G, because if you know me and if you know how transparent I am about all things in my life, you will realize that we might just be talking about a lot more than just leadership, because all of these things affect us. They affect us in our leadership, in our lives, in our work, in our personal. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Go speak positively into somebody's life. Go breathe life into them and remind them that they were placed on this earth with a purpose, and that purpose was divine, God appointed, God given, and no one can take that away from them. But they just need to embrace it. Ciao.